I was in the army, I was fighting in Arabia in a war, but I did not have exams from school. I came originally from South Africa. I'm not saying the education is bad there, but I did not pass exams. So I have to go into something that I can do that does not require huge intelligence. And it does require looking very carefully at a problem, working out where the difficulties of the problem are, and attacking it from that side with the right people, the right team. I would love to say anybody can be an explorer. That would not be the case. You have to look very, very carefully if the exploration is genuinely difficult. There are many expeditions which do this, do that. You look at it carefully, it's not difficult. You know, it's not like crossing from one side of Barcelona to the other side of Barcelona. We know that to break a world record, and that's what we always go for, if you want big sponsorship, then it's because you're going for a world record. Maybe, just to give you one example, 1980s, human beings had never been around Earth's surface vertically. So you start at 0, which is Greenwich in London, and you go for 3 to 4 years slowly around Earth, never flying 1 meter of the 52,000-mile journey. That is a record which has never been done. So what do? We look at little bits to see. Back in 20 years ago, maybe, Shackleton in Antarctica managed to cross to the South Pole, and then he didn't quite get to the South Pole because why? You look at it carefully, you learn from previous experience. If you are going into an area, as we did in 1980, which for 900 miles to the South Pole is unexplored, nobody has been there, people do not know how high it is, there are no polar satellites, no overflights, then you cannot look at previous experience. You are going into the unknown. That is genuine exploration, genuine pioneering. In that case, you have to get people who are good at learning about glaciers. So maybe you wake up in the morning, you look out of the tent, and you see in between the two cliffs, everything is rumbled and full of holes. You want somebody who is an expert at doing that particular type of project. So you take that person with you. You have experts for every likely bad thing. Polar expedition, you're fighting the ice, you're fighting the wind, you're fighting the moon, which is changing the tides and so on. And the best you can do is get a meteorological forecast, know if it's going to break the ice, then you're going to have to wait, because if the tide comes up, the ice on top will crack up. You mustn't do it in the night time, because then you cannot use your experience of knowing which ice is old ice. Ice grows on the sea at 1 meter a year. The old multi-year ice is much deeper, and therefore the current is faster. So those bits of ice, which will be more grey, not blue, are good, they're strong. This is the sort of experience you have to have in order to deal with ice. And you can't train for it until you get there. If we have a very bad polar weather situation, because in the Arctic and the Antarctic there are no meteorological forecasting, so we don't know what it's going to be. We set out, we find that suddenly everything in the Arctic Ocean, the ice is breaking up, you're in the middle of an area, you can't go for safety, then you must have your prepared reaction to that. You must have the right equipment for bad things happening with the weather. In the same way, in a bank, you should have big reserves. So crises which don't have reserves are the fault of the people at the top. And in my case, as leader of the expeditions, I am to blame if I'm not ready for very bad weather at all times. You have to think pessimistically. When we get setbacks, and normally with the unexplored situation there will be setbacks, you have to say, if I carry on, there's going to be death, and therefore we will go back, and the next year, everything is seasonal, so if you're in July, you have to wait until the next July, we will try again. So for instance, on Everest, I was trying to be the oldest British person to come up Everest for a charity. So in 2005, Tibet, I have a massive heart attack near the top. So I think, right, I will go away, get my heart better, come back again, try from the other side, 2 sides to one mountain. So from Nepal, try from that side. But this time, a whole lot of people are dying, and we pass many bodies. And one of the body of my Sherpa's father, this is not good for morale. Okay, so you wait, and then year number 3, you come back again, and this time is no problem. So you learn by the previous mistakes when things go wrong. You then come back again, having different equipment or different time of the year. That you have to be very flexible. From a mental attack plan, you look very, very carefully at it. Preparation is by learning from other people's mistakes. In terms of physically, it gets more difficult the older you get. You have to spend more time training. But you have to make a living. Nobody pays you a penny for preparing an expedition, planning it, organizing it, getting the sponsors. One expedition, we needed 1,900 sponsors just for one expedition. That's 7 years' work without pay. So you have to make a living. So I have to give lectures, have to write books. So in the time that is left, you have to say, I will do 30 minutes every morning before breakfast doing press-ups, otherwise your body starts getting too old. So you go for a 1-hour run every day. But then when you're 60, the run is not called a run, it's called a jog. And when you are 70, it's called a shuffle. So, but you still have to keep trying to keep fit. Well, you have to choose your team very well. Corporate team, not quite so easy, but on an expedition, I get applications. I don't pay people to come on my expeditions. They get nothing back. Therefore, they must be ready for doing this sort of thing. Otherwise, they wouldn't apply because there's no financial gain. So I start off with people who are looking at doing it from the right angle, not financial. Therefore, when things do go wrong, they've already looked at polar work. They know that they're going into a dangerous situation. It's like mountain climbers know that they can fall off. They shouldn't be mountain climbing if they're not ready for it. So we end up with a situation where the whole team, maybe 8 people in the team, we know that if one person is weak, maybe mentally weak as well, physically weak, that person can spoil everything for the entire situation. That's not quite the same in a corporate empire, but it's a little bit of a parallel. You start trying to break world records. So to do expeditions is very expensive, and you therefore require the ability to raise money by persuading people that they will get what they want to give you what you want. So it's quid pro quo at all times. And a sponsor wants publicity. So a company, Julius Baer or whatever, is going to want their name on jackets. You understand that. And the BBC is not wanting names on jackets. So you have to be quite clever to get maybe last year, I needed an icebreaker to go to Antarctica, $2 million. I had to persuade a bank to give us $2 million. We wrote the name of the bank on the side of the icebreaker. So you have to work out what they want in order to get what you want. The climate change in Antarctica does not affect us, because you have 10,000 foot, maybe 4,000 meter mountains, and then you have 1 kilometer of ice on top of the mountains. So, okay, the ice is getting less, but you don't see it because there's so much of it. In the Arctic Ocean, very big change, yes. 1970s, I make our sledges a little bit waterproof in case there's some water on the way to the North Pole. By the 1990s, only 20 years later, I'm designing them like canoes because there is so much water. Yeah, so there's a very, very big change in the Arctic which is affecting travel on the ice already. Thinking about stopping is thinking about dying. So I would only want to stop when I'm forced to by something going wrong with your body.